Don't know why. Can't stop trying, trying. Wherever going to cry. And no, we couldn't always get along.
So this is our boat for the day. Her name is Lady Granite. Now this is a rigid hull inflatable boat. What that means is that these floaty bits on the outside have nothing to do with our flotation. This is purely for stability and to deflect some of the ocean spray off of you into the back where the captains are. So if anyone's gonna have a wet time, hopefully it's me and the other captains on board. Territory of indigenous peoples of this region, the Coast Salish peoples. Specifically, I'm talking about the Squamish Nation up to the north of us, up towards Squamish. The Musqueam people to the south, and in the area that we now call Vancouver. Seals poking their heads out, so definitely be on the lookout for that, as that's awesome. So further development occurred after the railway was built out and extended to this region, and eventually they ran out of industrial space. Metal scaffolding underneath. Being the gateway to the city, they wanted to leave a bit of a different impression than that metal skeleton. So they built up those two pillars. Refer to this as the danger zone. I would recommend not looking up, not keeping your mouth open, maybe throwing that hood up if you feel like it. We are going to be trying to navigate the safest route possible, but you never know when a cormorant bomb can come down on you. When the seawall was originally being built, which we'll touch more on later, these stone breakwaters were formed, and that was to stem erosion from taking over the seawall. Go off to our right at about 1 o'clock, you will notice a large barge, and it's pretty hard to miss out there. So this happened last November when an atmospheric river, which is a weather phenomenon with high winds and currents, came into the region, and this particular barge was anchored out in English Bay, but it was knocked out of anchor. It was also a high tide. It was kind of just a perfect culmination of lots of things that led to this barge being blown all the way across to where you see it now. It's a great way to communicate through the ages, year to year. Park. Now this is the number one rated activity to come check out in Vancouver on TripAdvisor, and for good reason. There's so much that Stanley Park has to offer. Now this is the largest urban park in Vancouver. It's roughly 1/5 larger than Central Park in New York, and it's a great place to hang out for humans, but also all the wildlife. Has anyone here partaken in a Guinness beer? Yeah. So this bridge was actually financed by the Guinness family who migrated over to Canada in the early 30s. You can't have that, obviously. So they approached the city, asked if a bridge would be built, but finances being what they were, the city said no thank you. So the Guinness family said, okay, 4,700 acres of land on the north.
Dead Man's Island. There's a white flag there with the cross of St. George. That's the Naval Reserve, and that's their training grounds. It's unfortunately called Dead Man's Island. Industrial setting. There's over 400,000 species living living and growing and thriving on that roof. Largest container ships we have on the waters, they really get massive. And yet, the crew would be between 15 and 24 people to run a boat this size. Everything's highly automated. All of the work on the engines, the maintenance is a constant thing. Engineers just love that stuff. Always taking something apart, cleaning it, oiling it, putting it back together, and going on to the next one, and documenting it. But this is, as I said earlier, second busiest port on the West Coast. Major employer and good jobs, as we like to say in Vancouver, not just office jobs wearing suits, but good jobs for people who contribute to the city and to all of Canada. This is the gateway to Canada, and this container ship is very much a part of it. Tide rip that we get in Vancouver. It's about 30% more than going under Lionsgate. You'll be able to see it as we get closer to the columns, the way the water just pushes up against it. It surprises a lot of people. When I first moved to Vancouver, I had a little sailboat with a 5 horsepower outboard. I could go up the Niagara River, close to Niagara Falls, to get to Youngstown Yacht Club.
While there is no bridge connecting these two communities, that means that it can take twice as long to get to downtown from Belcara, which is off to our right. However, Belcara faces west, which means they get a couple extra hours of sunlight every single day. Now, off to our right, we have a huge mansion going up on a private island. And I want to quickly mention that all the waterfront property in either community is exempt from what we were just talking about. That property is going to be a very expensive one. I would guesstimate it to be in excess of $10 million. So the waterfront places here are all extremely expensive, but the average cost for homes in either community tend to be a little more expensive over in the coast.
We're going to see forests, most of this, except the most inaccessible parts. This is all second growth. This was logged about 100 years ago. That was part of building Vancouver. It was put on ships and it was sent to Europe for construction there.
Because as the glaciers rip and carve through sheer mountain, they basically let a V shape in their path and continue going underwater at the same angle that they enter at, and they meet, the two mountainsides meet at the bottom of the fjord, at the apex of the V shape. Not to mention the formation of the islands themselves.
Number 2 is the second because it was the second built, only by 9 years, but it's the first stop of our 2 powerhouses. Now for the owner of these powerhouses. So the lesson will be learned is if you're ever in a bit of a tight situation and have made multiple mistakes, just name it after your boss and all will be forgiven.
access is by boat. That could be a kayak, that could be a powerboat, that could be a sailboat. When we get into the summer months, there could be 75 or 100 boats anchored here. This is one of the few places in the inlet where it's shallow enough that you can actually drop an anchor.
There's a wonderful display at the Vancouver Aquarium. They have an amazing, actually a couple of different tanks that have on display. So yeah, harbor seals like these are the most common type of seal in the area. We saw a couple earlier in the tour.
Okay, so on your right here are the two dry docks that are part of our shipbuilding and ship repair facility in North Vancouver. Generally, this has been a big deal. Those of you are friends from Halifax may or may not see a very large windmill. That's Grouse Mountain. You can take a cable car up the side of the mountain, have a meal, walk around and have a look. You don't need snow boots.
Also, out in front of the museum, you'll see a yellow-looking submarine. That is the Benjamin Franklin Theater. As you see, we're finally seeing herring come back. They haven't been around the last couple of years. It's been a bit.
Spot prawn season only lasts about a month. And there's also an amazing little place there.